Hey everyone, I'm THPine and welcome back to my Screeps Nooby guide. Today we're going to talk about the fundamental basics required to keep your colony alive. Those are three things. The first one is get your creeps to harvest energy so you can spawn more creeps. The second one is automate the process of spawning new creeps so your colony doesn't die off while you're offline because your creeps have a limited lifetime. And the third one is to regularly upgrade your controller because if you don't, the controller will downgrade and when it reaches level 0, you lose control of the room. In this video, we're gonna cover the harvesting of energy, and in order to do so, we need creeps. Since we didn't set up the automatic spawning yet, we're gonna do manual spawning, and therefore we go to the console and we type in game spawns, which is a list of the spawns we control, and then the name of the spawn. In my case, this is spawn 1, and then we call the function create creep, and this takes a few arguments. The first one is the body of the creep, which is an array of body parts. I don't want to explain this in detail right now. I'm probably gonna cover that in a later video more in depth. For now, let's just go with work, carry, move, and this will allow the creep to get energy, harvest energy from a source with the work part, carry the energy with the carry part, and move between the spawn and the energy source with the two move parts. We take two move parts because that means he's a little bit quicker. So now we could add another argument as a name for the creep. So we could call it Hans, for example. Well, not that way. There we go, Hans. But we're not going to do that because if we omit the name, the game will pick a name by random, and we're going to we're gonna do that. So let's spawn the creep. It's called Violet, so Violet will be our first creep, and now you can see the spawn is going to work and is spawning a creep. And while it is doing so, let's switch over to WebStorm really quick because I missed a thing in the last video. If you're using WebStorm as a third-party IDE, make sure you go to Settings, Language and Frameworks, JavaScript, and switch the language version to 6. This will enable a few more recent features which are quite useful. So yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so Violet will be here in a moment, but she will not do anything because we didn't told her to do anything yet because we have to program the code first. So how do we program in this game? Well, we have this loop, module exports loop. This is a function, and everything we put into this function will be executed every tick. So for every tick, we have to decide what the creep should do. So what does the creep have to do? Well, two things. The creep, or Violet, which is here now, welcome, has to A, go to the energy source and harvest energy, and B, go back to the spawn and transfer the energy to the spawn. So this means we need two different states for the creep. I call them working when the creep is transferring energy to the spawn or is on the way to go to the spawn, and not working when the creep is on the way to the source or is at the source and harvesting energy. So to save this state, we're going to use the memory. I don't want to explain memory in detail either because, again, I'm going to probably cover this in a later video. The only thing you know is everything you want your creep to remember between ticks has to be stored in the memory. That kind of makes sense, right? So it's kind of natural. Remember things which are in the memory, right? Okay, so how do we access the memory? Well, we can do this via console, for example, by typing in game creeps, which is the list of creeps we control. Then the name of the creep, Violet, and then we access the memory property, and now we can create a new property called working, and we set it to false because, as I said, the not working state is when when the creep is going to the source and harvesting energy, and since the creep doesn't have any energy right now, you should start with that. So working false. We send this to the console, and this should set the value in the memory. We can check it by switching to the memory tab. And you can see some stuff here we don't need right now. Doesn't matter though, we can just leave this. Basically, you have the memory root here, which contains all the variables in the memory. It has the creeps object in here, which has our creep Violet so far. And you have some shorthands over here, and you can define new shorthands. For example, there's the creep shorthand, which is just the same object as this one. And if you select the creep, it will create another shorthand, creeps.violet, and we can check the state of the working variable here, and it's false, so that worked. Okay, now let's make use of this variable by writing code using this variable. Okay, so we switch over to the IDE, and first we have to access the creep. We did that already. Game creeps Violet, and for convenience, we're gonna store that in a variable called creep. There we go. Okay, and now we're gonna check for the state. So if creep.memory working is true, then we want to go to the spawn and transfer energy. So the creep has a function called transfer, which does exactly that. It takes two arguments. First, the target, which in our case is game spawns spawn 1, and then the type of energy you want to transfer, which is the resource energy. There we go. Okay, so this would transfer energy to the spawn. However, it requires the creep to be adjacent to the spawn, or to the target, in this case the spawn. If it is not, this will throw an error. Well, it will not throw, it will return an error code, which is fairly useful. So anytime this function will not work for some reason, for example, because the creep is not close enough to the spawn, it will return an error code, and we can check for this error code by putting this into an if statement and comparing it to the error code, error not in range. There we go. And if the spawn is not in range for transferring, we're going to use a different function called moveTo, and it takes a target as an argument again, and we're going to take the spawn again, obviously. And, well, you guessed it from the name, this will make the creep move towards the spawn. Okay, cool, so that was easy. What do we do if we're in the different state, if we're in the state where we're not working and we want to harvest energy? So first we have to find the closest source. So we're going to do that by using the creep pos property. The pos property is the room position, which is basically an object which stores a bunch of useful information and has a bunch of handy functions. And the one we're going to use is find... Sorry. Oh, sorry, pardon. Okay, the one we're going to use is find closest by path. And this takes an argument which defines what kind of objects we want to find, and we use the constant find sources here. So this function will return the closest source to this creep, and we're gonna store this in a variable called source. There. Okay, and now we're gonna do something similar to what we did in the first branch. We're gonna use a function called creep harvest, which takes a source as an argument, and this will harvest energy from the source if it can. If it can't for some reason, it's gonna return an error code. So we're gonna check for that, similar to above, error not in range. And if we're not in range, you guessed it, we're gonna move towards it by using the same function as above. And that's it. That's all we have to do. This will make the creep work. Well, one thing is missing though. There's one thing left, and that is switching the state between working and not working. So we're gonna put the logic for that up here. And basically we have two edge cases. The first one is if creep memory working is true. So if the creep is working right now, so it is transferring energy to the spawn, and the creep has no energy left. Creep.carry, which is the carry body part, and energy is the amount of energy stored in the carry body part, is 0. So if the creep has no energy left, we're gonna stop working and start gathering energy or harvesting energy from the source again. So we set this to false. There we go. And if that's not the case, we check for the other edge case, which is we are not working, obviously. Creep memory working is false, and the creep is full and cannot carry more energy. So we check carry energy is equals to creep carry capacity. So in this case, we harvested as much energy as the creep can carry, so we start working again and bring the energy to the spawn. So we go creep memory working is true, and that should do the trick. So we save the script, which will bring it into action, and we got an error because I did something wrong. Okay, so some live debugging now. Line 7, unexpected token. Okay, we probably kind of screwed up the something here. Else, oh yeah, sure, I forgot the if. Else if. There we go. This should be the trick. Should do the trick. Else if. There we go. No more arrows. Violet starts moving. Nice. Okay, so now we can check for her state really quick. Well, it should not have changed so far, so the state is probably still not working. You can see she stored some more memory stuff in the memory here, which is the underscore move property. This comes from this is a side effect of the moveTo function, this one. But, it's for saving CPU performance, basically. It will store parts of the path in memory, so it doesn't have to do path finding every tick, because path finding is very expensive to do. Okay, you see Violet is starting harvesting energy. Cool. So now, well, we don't have enough energy yet, I think, to spawn another creep. Well, we almost have, but not the same creep as Violet. But we can spawn a smaller one, which should not be a big problem. So let's do that. We spawn another creep. We do it similar to earlier. There we go. However, this time I want to use another argument, the third argument. First, the second argument, I still want to omit the name. So we just put undefined here. This will have the same effect as just omitting it. So the name will be picked by the game. And the third argument, I'm going to use that to instantly store something in the creep's memory. And if I remember correctly, I can do this by giving an object here. And in that object, I say working is false. There we go. I think that's the way to go. If not, we're going to get an error message. But we have to wait for 200 energy first. The work part... Oh, wait, we have to remove a move part as well. There we go. Work costs 100, carry and move cost 50 energy. So we need 200 for this creep. He will be a little slower than Violet, but should still be fine. There we go. 200 energy. Let's send this command. Let's see if I did everything right. I didn't. Flas. Yeah, flas is not a word. Let's try false instead. There we go. And the creep is called Anthony. However, if you take a look at our script will only move Violet. And Anthony is not actually doing it. Will not actually do anything. So we could obviously just copy the whole code and copy it for Anthony as well. But that's not very convenient. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use a loop. We're going to use a for loop. And we will have a variable called name in here. The let keyword is a special keyword in JavaScript, which means this variable has a smaller scope. It will only be available in the loop. If we take var here, we can access the variable outside of the loop as well. And we go var for let name in game.creeps, and then we're going to do something in here. So, well, we're not going to close the loop here. We're going to close the loop down here. We're not done yet though. What does this actually mean? So game creeps is an object with one property per creep, and the property is called the name of the creep. So Violet, for example, or Anthony. Those are the property names, and the value of the property will be the creep object. So yeah, the creep. So its position, its hit points, the amount of resources it carries, and stuff like that. And we can give it orders. So we return. So if we do a for in loop, we're gonna get all the property names in this variable. So for every iteration on this loop, we get another property name from this array, so another creep name. So what we can do now is we can, instead of doing this, we can do this and get one of the creeps from the object without a dot. There we go. So now we get different creep for every iteration, and this should do the trick and actually control all the creeps. Let's see if Anthony is around already. Yeah, he is. And now he hopefully starts moving. There we go. He is. Cool. Let's check his memory really quick so I didn't screw that up. Select Anthony. There we go. He has a working state false. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Cool. So that works. We can put some, well, we could put some debugging code in here if we want to, just to see something, to put out some things. So log name is working creep memory dot working, and this should give us some good information in the console. Violet is working false, Anthony is not working either, and as soon as their carry capacity is reached, they will switch to working, hopefully. Then we got it. Should be the case for Violet, actually. She's not for some reason. Okay, so we did a mistake somewhere, because she's not actually turning to working. Okay, so we did something wrong. So let's try to figure out what we did wrong. If creep memory is not working, we're in this case, and creep carry energy. Energy is not a thing. There we go. Energy. Energy. Oops. Energy is no. Yeah, I could have noticed it was not purple. So it was not a known variable. Now it is, and now it should hopefully work if everything else is correct. There we go, Violet turned around, and now the console says Violet is working true, and Violet is moving towards the spawn and bringing energy there. Brilliant, that worked, fairly easy. So this is the whole code. I'm gonna share the code via GitHub probably, and I will put a link to that in the description below. I will also link the documentation for the game below. You can check that if you want to know what a function exactly does, or what functions actually exist, what the return codes are and stuff like that. So I'm gonna put that in the description below as well. But for now, our creeps are harvesting energy. Brilliant, cool. So the next step will be automate the process of spawning new creeps, and we're gonna cover that in the next video. Until then, I'm THPine. I hope you liked the video. If you did, feel free to press the like button, and also consider subscribing, because I'm gonna make more videos like this. And so yeah, thanks for watching. I highly recommend if people spend their free time watching my content, so thumbs up for you. Have fun, and see you next time.